Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to start with a quote. The ears of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. Great president once said that. Mr. President, I rise today to make it clear to everyone in this chamber exactly why I cannot support this legislation. You've heard the chants outside this chamber, not just today and last night, but many times over the past 2 years. Thousands of people have shown up, union and non-union, men and women, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, even their children. These are the working families of Michigan. These are the thousands of people that I was sent here to represent. When I vote no, I'm voting no on behalf of the thousands of families. Who are you voting yes for? Grover Norquist? I know he sent you all a letter asking you to support this anti-worker legislation. You are voting yes because a handful of corporate lobbyists, a handful of fat cats in the back are telling you to. That's who you work for, the powerful few, the guys with top hats and monocles. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I work for the people, for the many. I proudly represent them in casting this no vote. I'm doing what's right, what's good for the people. And I tell you this, Mr. President, we will fight you. We will not let this stand. We'll fight you from Kalamazoo to Timbuktu. We'll fight you from the streets and in the suites. We'll fight you in the penthouse and we'll fight you in the outhouse. And Mr. President, I'll tell you this right now, when it's all said and done, when it's all over, we will grab the thunderbolt of truth. We will grab the rod of revolution and we will have our victory. And the spoils will go to the working people of Michigan. And you will forever remember the day when you thought you could conquer labor. You were sorely mistaken. Be prepared to engage in the fight of your life. You might win this battle, but the wars are brewing, sir. The wars are brewing, sir. And we're coming, and we're taking no prisoners, and we're taking no quarter. And Mr. President, when all said is done, working men and women of this state will reign supreme. Thank you, and I ask that my comments be printed in the journal. Hello and welcome to The Young Effect. I am your state senator, Coleman Alexander Young II. Always an honor and a privilege to be here with you recording live. TV 33, WHPR. You can also see us all around the world at TV33WHPR.com. That's TV33WHPR.com. As always, we want to give honor and tribute to the men and women who give the ultimate sacrifice of their lives for the freedoms that we have right here in the good old US of A. We want to thank God for our military. We also want to thank God for our local heroes, our police officers, our firefighters, our emergency services personnel who are willing to give the ultimate sacrifice of their lives for us to be able to live in a civil society. With that being said, I just want to say again to everyone that's out there that's serving in Afghanistan, we appreciate you. We love you. We thank God for you. Had a little correction there. We thank God for you. For all those firefighters and anyone who puts on a uniform of service, we love you. And we want to say a very special prayer for everybody out there on Resurrection Sunday, Holy Week, Happy Easter. We love you. We thank God for you. We praying for you. Please join me in a moment of silence for the fallen and their loved ones. All right. Thank you for that. And with that being said,
I think you've seen her already, but I'm going to, without further ado, introduce this person. I would have nothing and be nothing without my angel mother, the one, the only, the woman, the myth, the legend, the legacy, my mother, and Ivy Calvert.
Happy Easter.
It's so good to be here with you
Happy
on this
Easter.
Resurrection Sunday.
Happy Resurrection
How
Day.
are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good, 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 good. Now listen, I just wanted to say it's such a privilege to be here with you. It's always, the ratings always go through the roof when you're here. We always have a good time when we're here. And I just want to say thank you so much for supporting me throughout my 12 years of being a legislator, of having passed 11 laws, of having passed historic civil rights legislation, making sure that women receive mandatory paid leave when they become pregnant in both the public and private sectors.
You've done a
Thank you,
lot.
yeah, thank you so much for helping me with energy cost recovery, whether it's movie tax credits, whether it's property tax reductions, whether it is blight signage that
It
we've
was.
been able to get rid of, that we've been able to work together with, whether it's reducing property taxes for
Can I?
people in their
Can I
homes.
touch your microphone?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can go ahead and touch what you want. Whatever it is that I also want to say thank you for helping me as well with appropriating $2 million for Focus Hope. Thank you for helping me appropriate $550,000 to the Charles H. Wright Museum, as well as thank you for helping me appropriate $6.8 million to low income heating and low income food assistance
That's right.
called Heat and Eat, which allowed me to
That is
bring
so
down
important.
$300 million
300
from the
million.
federal government. And I created 10,000 jobs through
With the
movie
movie
tax
tax credits.
credits.
Yes, you did.
All of that has come from you and
No.
your love and
No.
your tutelage. I just want to
No.
thank you so much for all
No.
that you've done
No.
on this Easter Sunday.
Thank you.
I would not be where I'm at without you. I think you the best there is, the best there was, and the best mom there's ever gonna be.
I appreciate
And so
that.
I love you tremendously, and it's always a pleasure for you to come on my show and to join me.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Senator, for having me on. It's
Yes.
an honor and a privilege. And I wanted to say thank you so much to all of the Young Effect viewers who have been loyal supporters. And it has been so great seeing so many of you. I just appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for um, taking my son into your homes and into your hearts. And it's because of you that we have that slogan, everybody loves Coleman and Coleman loves the people. And he's been coming on every Sunday on WHPR since 2005. Since 2005, it'll be 13 years before we even thought about running for office. You had a show on WHPR, um, and the people on WHPR gave him the listening and viewing audience on WHPR gave him a baptism by fire. I remember those first few
Hell, brimstone.
shows. Oh my goodness.
Woo.
Um, they 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 were really tough.
Very intense.
Where
But it helped me though become the man I am today. You know what I'm saying? Iron sharpens iron.
that's true.
So
That's true. That's true. That's true. People called in and they really
you know,
went up one side and down the other and said what he wasn't and said what he was and
either breaks you or makes you.
yes. And then when you ran the first time, it was because Adolph Mongo was on um, Nadia, wasn't it? No, Nubia. Nubia had a show right before yours, and Adolph Mongo was on that show. And he said you should run for state rep.
Yep.
That Mary Waters was term
Turn limited you
limited.
should run for, and I did.
Yeah,
And the rest is history.
right. And
The rest is history.
it has been a learning experience,
Got a
and
call.
we have two calls. I just want to take a little bit of time though and say thank you
Mm.
for you being the man that you are.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that.
For that little conversation we had on the way over here, where you were saying that um, you were part of a family that wouldn't let you BS, that you had to read and you had to learn,
Yeah.
that you were part of a family that said to you, Coleman, now before you start talking about stuff,
You
you
gotta know what you're
you
talking
gotta know what you're
about.
talking about.
You can't just get by
And
just
we
on being
did.
aggressive.
We
And
did. We did. We
just saying
did.
what you think.
We
You gotta
did.
actually know some stuff.
We
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I
We
had to learn
did.
that the hard way.
You've been reading and researching ever since
Yeah,
though.
had to learn the hard
And I
way.
so appreciate that about you.
Nah,
That
no
you're
problem.
knowledgeable.
No
That you're
problem. Nah,
knowledgeable.
I'm just reading. I mean, I don't know about knowledge. I'm just reading and trying to figure stuff out, man, to the best of my ability. You know what I mean? I just thank God
Yes.
for the artists to give me the opportunity to do that. So,
Are you ready to take
yeah, we
some
got some calls.
calls?
Let's take some calls.
Okay. Caller, you're on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect. Hello.
Happy Resurrection. Hello, this is Kathy from the East Side.
Hey,
Hey,
Kathy, what's going on,
Kathy.
Kathy?
Happy Resurrection Day.
Happy Resurrection Day to you
Hey.
too.
And you guys look so nice on TV. You guys
Thank
look
you.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
There's that Easter Sunday wear right there.
I didn't think that you guys, I had to call to make sure that
Hey.
you guys were really there live. Because I didn't think that you would be there on the holiday.
Well, you know, RJ Watkins just walked in.
So
We
let
gotta
him
say,
get
hey,
in
RJ,
his
hold on
Easter
for a minute.
colors.
In his Easter colors. They go, oh, hey.
Oh,
There it
look
is,
at
RJ.
My two favorite
Oh,
people.
wow.
Hey, brother, how you doing? Love you,
RJ
man.
looks good, too.
Yeah.
Cause RJ,
Happy
you know
holiday
you big
season.
time when RJ comes here, man. Yeah.
RJ looks good, too.
He
Yeah,
does,
he does. He
doesn't
looks
he?
real
Younger. He
good.
does
Hello,
look
Detroit.
younger.
Hey,
In
love
his
y'all.
Easter
You too.
colors.
Good to see you, man. Hey, that's the boss right
It's good
there.
to
He's the
see
one
you,
that makes it all
RJ.
happen.
That's the big boss.
Wow.
That's the oracle right there.
Wow, he
Yeah,
looks
that's the
good.
visionary. He gets it done. Yeah, we all.
I just
Yeah.
want to say Happy Resurrection Day, and that story about Adolf. Well, that's hilarious. So all of us should be thanking Adolf for your political
Yeah.
career. Is that
it,
what
it
you're
was
saying?
because of him that I got started. I wouldn't have been doing nothing if it wasn't for him.
That is something
That's
else.
amazing how that
I
worked,
just
don't it?
wanna-
Yes.
Yes, I just want to say thank you guys for being on the air and being so diligent to the audience. And Happy Resurrection Day and Happy Mother's Day every day for all
Yes.
single mothers. And
Yes.
for you too. Thank you so much, and thank you, Senator.
All right. Well, listen, we love you. We appreciate you. Always good to hear from you, Kathy.
She's gone.
All right, we got another caller.
Yes.
Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon and happy Resurrection Day. to the
Happy
two of
Resurrection Day to
Hi.
you too, sir.
Our future congressman. I'm not in your district, but I'm supporting you by mouth and letting everybody know that you need to be put in that position. You got a long list of people running desperate, looking for a job or likely position. And like you say, what have they done? Some of the people I never heard of. What have they done? We've seen what you've done
Yeah.
and what you still do. We've seen you run for office and all and been on this channel. You got in office and you still come. These people get in office, you vote for them, they come up there just to campaign and you don't see them no more. They don't even send nothing in to support the station. But you are going to be our next congressman. We support you. Now, I often tell people about while we sleeping and having a good time barbecuing, that some of these state legislators and Congress people, they smoking their pipes and drinking their bourbon, passing laws. Now, did you hear the other day where July the 1st, what is that, oh God, they're going to boost the no-fault insurance up to $29 on people.
Yeah. To
I'm gonna hang up and
$190
listen.
something dollars, man.
I'm going to hang up and listen so you can respond on it.
Go
if I can
ahead.
hear.
I will. I'm glad you brought that up. Look, nah, thank you. Look, that's according to the rate of inflation. That's how that goes up. But here's the thing. My line is, man. Listen, we need to start talking about serious reform. And we need to make the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association transparent and open to the public. And this is why I think it needs to be public body, because everybody pays into it. And you're mandated by law to pay into it. So if I'm mandated to give somebody some money, I should know what they're doing with it and where it's going. And I think this is the only government or quasi-governmental entity that I've ever seen, the only private entity I've seen that has a mandate from the government to buy their product, and we don't have a right to know where that money is going. I just think it's absolutely absurd. I think the LCCA should be open to the public, and I think we need substantive, comprehensive auto insurance reform. I think that we need to make sure that, one, that anytime they raise their rates, we need transparency in terms of the fact I think the auto insurance industry should be mandated and required to report and to have a town hall meeting to the public of why they're raising the rates. I think secondly, we should have prior approval where the commissioner actually has to approve these rates, and the commissioner actually has the authority to be able to say whether or not rates are excessive and be able to roll back or prevent the use of credit scoring, because they base discounts based on, they give discounts out based on your credit, and hell, it depending on what kind of insurance you got. If you got group insurance, they can base your rate based on your credit. Or if you're if you got insurance that's like a certain percentage, you know, a small percentage of the market, then they can base it based on your credit. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. Look, your auto insurance record should be based on three things. It should be based on your driving record, it should be based on your driving experience, and it should be based on miles driven. And in that order. And we need to do something about territory, your rating. So that's basically where they base your rates based on where you live. So they base your rates based on where you garage your car. That is wrong. Because the city of Detroit is always going to have more people in it. It's always going to have more accidents. It's 138 square miles. 139 square miles, depending on who you talk to. So it's always going to have more accidents or whatever, because it's got more people. We need to base it just like they did in California, where they based it on your driving record. And we need an efficiency standard so the money that's being spent actually goes to the cost of providing the service of insurance, not to, patent, profits or the swanky, downtown offices at the expense of the public, which is being killed by a product they are mandated to buy or they will go to jail. It is a misdemeanor not to have insurance in this state. I think it's the only state in the country where it's actually a misdemeanor, where it's a crime not to have auto insurance. That is fundamentally wrong. And that's why we need reform, and that's why I've been fighting reform. And when I was in the House, in my second term, I actually passed auto insurance reform out of the House. It just got to the Senate, which was controlled by Republicans, and they just refused to do anything about it. And we need to also have a fraud authority, too, to go after people who are committing fraud. But that needs to be on both sides, not just on consumers committing fraud against the industry, the auto insurance industry, but also when the auto insurance industry commits fraud against the consumers. Primarily when you have auto insurance companies that refuse to give out payouts to people who have been catastrophically injured. And they just, there was a case, I think it's called the Accepted Claims of Excellence, and it was by State Farm. And basically they had a policy where they were not going to pay out money to consumers who have been in catastrophic car accidents, or to rehabilitation firms that have been in catastrophic car accidents, until they actually were sued. That's one of the reasons why lawsuits have gone up. Also, and we need to cut lawsuits out too. I'm not saying that we don't, but let's be clear. The reason why you got so many lawsuits is not because lawyers are just trying to find ways to make money. It's because there was a decision in 2005. It was called the De Villers decision. And the De Villers decision basically said that if you do not, if you get into it was something called a look back rule. If I'm not mistaken, it was a 1 year file rule, and there's a 1 year look back rule. And basically what it says is you got 1 year to file a claim. So you get to a car accident, you file a claim with the insurance company. You got 1 year to file a claim, and then they have 1 year to be able to determine whether or not they're going to pay that claim. And basically what they used to do before is they'd give you an exemption, where basically you had 1 year to file. If you file within that year, then they would give you a break they would suspend the time limit until the insurance company would decide whether or not they were going to pay it or not. And then if they decided whether or not they're going to pay it, that time limit would start up again. Whereas now, they got rid of that exemption. So from the time you file a claim to the time they got to pay it out, if you don't have a lawyer and file suit and the insurance company decides not to pay it, you're not going to get benefits.
Wow.
That's why you got so many lawsuits in the system right now, because of that 2005 decision. And that was the dissenting decision, I think, by Supreme Court Judge at the time, Michael Kavanaugh. I think he's still on the bench. I don't know for sure. But that's what it was at the time. And that's one of the reasons why we got these lawsuits and we got the costs that we have like that. Medical is a part of it too. But it's also both sides, because you got to remember, insurance companies can deny claims, and they do. Insurance companies can use medical audits. You know what I'm saying? Decide they're only going to pay a piece of it and challenge whether or not it's reasonable, is necessary. It's a reasonably necessary. Because remember, it's not unlimited. It's what is reasonably necessary. Okay? That is what is the definition. It's a verbal threshold of what is reasonably necessary in terms of paying out, and also in terms of lawsuits. You know what I'm saying? You know, if you're catastrophically injured, you know, if it affects the trajectory of your life, you know, I think they fixed Kreiner a little bit. But basically, it is a verbal threshold in that regard. Okay? It's like severe, it's either severely injured, or someone dies, or if it's catastrophically hurt. You know, there's a verbal threshold. I know I'm mixing up some of that. But or if their trajectory of their life is altered, then they would be able to file suit. Now, they fixed that to make it a little bit more reasonable, but it's still that verbal threshold that you have to hit in order to file a suit if you're in an accident. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, and because no fault basically is supposed to stop lawsuits from happening. But that DeVillers decision is why there's so many lawsuits right now. It's not because lawyers are looking to make money. It's because they have to, because they're following the Supreme Court decision that took place. So either the legislature has to come and fix that decision, or another lawsuit has to take place overturning that. So this is why it's so important that we have reform. I necessarily don't like going back to fault, but I'm at this point open to doing whatever it takes to lower auto insurance right now. It's not my preferred option. But if that's what we have to do in order to get something done, we cannot be in a city where auto insurance is over $5,000 a year on average. But we also can't be in a city where we're going to take people's medical benefits away from them, and we're not going to guarantee that we're going to reduce cost. We're not going to do something about filing these lawsuits, and we're not going to do something about territorial rating or redlining. Because it don't make no sense if you're going to lower the rates and get rid of medical costs, but you're only going to lower the rates for 5 years and they can still redline against you. What's the point?
Yeah.
So we got to do something with those three, because you got to get lawsuits out of the system, because it takes away from the purpose of no fault. No fault is supposed to reduce lawsuits. You ain't in a no fault system if you got litigiousness. What's the point of no fault? You might as well go back to fault. You see what I'm saying? So you got to get rid of lawsuits, but you also got to make sure we get rid of redlining, and we got to lower rates. Now, you can stick for 1 out of 2, but you can't just have one. No, you can stick for 1 out of 2, but one of those has to be dealing with redlining. Otherwise, it don't work. As far as Detroit is concerned, as far as urban areas is concerned, but when I say urban areas where people of color live predominantly. It doesn't work. All right. That was a long-winded way to answer that question.
And what
on
about
Easter Sunday,
using credit scoring as a indicator for your
employment?
well,
Well,
no, for your insurance?
yeah, we just talked
Right.
about that. Yeah, let me just reiterate. It's wrong because people had bad credit in Detroit, particularly after the financial crisis. I think 68% of people in the city of Detroit are in arrears right now, and 66% of Detroiters had subprime mortgages. I think that's more than double what the national rate was. So that's why we have more people in Detroit now who rent than who own property. And that's the first time since World War II that we've had. I think it's 51%, 49, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere within that margin. So, give or take. So that's a major problem. That's why I'm running for Congress. One, because I want to make sure that we provide another round of money for hardest hit funds, and then we have restrictions on those funds, particularly saying that money needs to be used to keep people in their houses. And I also think that we need to have a new voucher called a stabilization voucher, so that people who are living in apartments now will not be gentrified from those apartments if they have a stabilization voucher. Because you have a lot of people now, because of the downtown development and growth, which is good, but you need to make sure that you do something to keep people who are here living there. Because right now we don't have that. And so you have a lot of people who are being displaced. And so I think that's something that's a tremendous concern. And we also need to make sure that we invest through HUD in order to build more affordable housing. And I think these are things that are necessary. In terms of credit scoring, I think that one, it should not be used to determine your rate in terms of auto insurance. One, because it has nothing to do with what kind of driver you are. You got guys who, because they have a better credit score and they live in the suburbs, they're paying $1,000 something less, $1,000 less than a person who's got a perfect driving record, but who's got a bad credit. You got people with DUIs on their record, but because they have a perfect credit score or a better credit score, they're paying less than somebody who's in Detroit who's got a perfect driving record, but has got bad credit. And, if people talking about, well, you don't want to do something because it's going to make the suburbs rates go up. Well, who's subsidizing who? Because I got people in my district who got perfect driving records. And there's a lot of people in Detroit right now who are senior citizens that got really good driving records. And they're being punished for some guy out there in the burbs who got 2-3 DUIs or 2-3 car crashes. You know what I'm saying? That's got all kinds of tickets with Wazoo.
And really great credit scores too.
Right.
Right.
Well, you got some who got good credit, you got some who don't, you got a lot who don't. But I just don't think that your driving record should be based on your credit score. It just should. And I think that about your work too. Because they base your employment based on your credit score. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's something that we need to do. And I think we need to make sure, and I think that in terms of employment, one, I think we need to ban that practice, but two, I think we need to make sure that we give, this is a little bit different topic, but I want to make sure we get this out, make sure that we provide tax credits to employers that not only hire folks, but also hire folks and pay them high wages and high salaries, or raise them, if they have that profession where the minimum wage applies, raise the minimum wage to $15 in their industries.
Wage.
Yeah, living wage, exactly. And one wage. You know what I'm saying? That means where you have the minimum wage, you have the tip wage at the same amount. I think the tip wage is $2.13, if I'm not thinking right now. And the minimum wage in this state is, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. State wage is $9.25. So I think if you raise all that to $15, I think that's what they're talking about when they talk about at least the state and the tip wage. That's what they're talking about, one wage, one tip wage.
Oh, I see.
Right. I just want to make sure I got that correct. And secondly, we also need to make sure that we invest and expand apprenticeship programs so that we expand them in other areas, such as the high-tech industries, and partner up with DPS and our school system and the federal government to make sure that we can partner, and states as well, to make sure we provide more money and more investment in terms of not just apprenticeship programs within labor, within building, but also within, the tech industry and science industry and things of that nature as well, biosciences, what have you. And within clean jobs as well, within green energy jobs as well, or green collar jobs, but also that's your wind, your solar, your biodiesel, your geothermal. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Hydroelectric. I just want to make sure I got that clear. So, and also we need to invest more in our pre-apprenticeship programs, and we need to make sure that all those programs are paid on the job, whether it's paid on job training or whether it's paid pre-apprenticeship programs, so you get the skills that you need to be able to apply for the apprenticeship. We need to have more of those, and all those need to be paid. I think that way we can, one, not only be able to put people back to work, but they can feed themselves and their families, and the cycle of that dollar can flow through the city, and we can have a better economy for everybody. And so people can get the skills that they need to be able to get the jobs, and they can get paid to feed their families and themselves. And for the next generation, we can move them forward, and we can move forward and really start closing the gaps right now. Because, if you're a minority, particularly African American, versus someone who's Caucasian, people who are the Caucasian persuasion have 10 times more wealth than you do. If you're a black person in America, you are 2 times more likely to be unemployed, even if you got the same level of college education as your white counterparts. You know, if you're a black college graduate, you have 33% less wealth than a white high school dropout. You know what I mean? And it's also that way for Latino families too. It's less than your white counterparts. That's why we need to expand this for people of color, man. We gotta do more, and we gotta do a better job. And that's what I'm thinking. Because 1 out of 3 black men are expected to go to prison in their lifetime, and 1 out of 6 Latino men. And in this state, and I'm gonna be done. I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, but in this state, arrests for immigrants with no criminal record in Michigan has gone up by 132% since Donald Trump's got in office. 130, well, really since last year, but 132%. So it's wrong. It's wrong. And that's why I support jobs and not jails. Thank you. Let's take some callers. Let me get that out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Welcome to the Young Effect. Thank you so much for calling.
Good evening. Happy Sunday.
Happy Easter.
Thank you. I'm not getting it. If the bottom line is red line is a crime, then why aren't these lawyers busting through the seams to do class act suits? Because it's a constant attack on the poor. The poor is the one that's being attacked and criminalized because if somebody else decides they can get away with this red line. Thank you for taking my call. I'll hang up and listen. I know you explained it, but I'm not getting it.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that,
Thank
sweetie.
you.
Love
Happy
you too.
Resurrection Day.
Thank you. That's a
Happy
good.
Sunday.
Bye-bye.
That's a good question. The reason why they're doing that now in terms of redlining is because they had changed the law in order to allow that to take place. You got to remember before we had something called the Essentials of Insurance Act, which basically was rate caps. So a rate in the city of Detroit couldn't be high, couldn't be so much. I think it was like it could be 90% higher than the rate in the suburbs, and then I think it was 10% for adjacent areas. So there's basically rate caps in terms of how much a rate could be beforehand. That was in 1986. Then I think, and then that expired. I think I think a couple folks complained, and then I think it was like some insurance companies complained. And then they passed a law in 1992 where basically they passed a law where basically says that they were going to suspend those restrictions. So they suspended those restrictions, and then in 1992 those restrictions then expired. The suspension of those restrictions expired, and then after they expired, then in 1996, Governor Engler came in, and then Governor Engler got rid of them in there entirely, permanently. So you had rate restrictions, and then what happened was they suspended them until 1992 because a couple insurance companies complained. And then in 1992, after that, after they suspended those suspensions expired. So the Essentials of Insurance Act then came back online, and then in 1996, Governor Engler came back and said we're just going to get rid of the Essentials of Insurance Act, which basically was a prevention of redlining. So that's why they're able to do that. And I think there's laws that protect the insurance companies now from being sued based off that. Now, nationally, I don't think that's the case. But statewide, from my understanding, that there is. And there was a case, I think it was in 93, I think they tried to sue based on that, and they found that it wasn't, and they found that it wasn't the case. That they sued based on redlining, and it wasn't the case. But I think nationally, you could get around that. So if you work with the, I want to run for Congress, because if you work with the, if I want to work with the Congressional Black Caucus as well, but I think if we work with our colleagues on the issues of redlining in these American cities, whether it is in LA, whether it is in Philadelphia, or whether it is in Detroit. And I think that if we work systematically together to file a national class action lawsuit against these companies, I think that would be a much better way of combating that as far as legislation is concerned. But I also think we need to make sure that we pass reforms here, from the state legislature, because that's what's going to be the difference. Federally, you can't do that because of the McCarran-Ferguson Act, which basically said that they're going to make states be regulated, that insurance companies are going to be regulated on the state level, to auto insurance companies on the state level, in order for them to have antitrust protections. They're going to be able to be regulated on the state level. But from the federal government, you can have inquiries. You can call people up and subpoena them. And I think that we should have committees, if we take back the majority, praise God, we take back the majority, and the Democrats do. We should, and I'm going to be asking people to have inquiries, to call up these folks from the insurance companies and swear them under oath and hold them accountable for what they're doing and the things they're doing it and the way in which they're doing it. And also, I think that I want to work with there is something in the United States Department of Treasury called the Federal Insurance Office. And basically, the Federal Insurance Office puts out reports based off of redlining in auto insurance. They've done that nationally. I would ask them to do that in Detroit and then make those findings public. I think that's what we really need to start doing in terms of making sure that we can have transparency in terms of what's going on, and we can hold people accountable from the federal level, as well as work with our state counterparts, because that's where the real change is going to come in.
And would that give us fairness in terms of rates?
I think it'd give you fairness in terms of rates, but I also think you'd just be more transparent in terms of what's going on, how we've gotten to where we are now, and how people are able to do this and get away with what they're doing. I think that's something that's very critical. And I think what I want to do is I want to paint a whole picture, because we're always getting bogged down in these arguments that really, to me, are not really the full picture. They're talking about benefits. Yeah, that's a part of it. They had to pay benefits. But also, they're denying the rehabilitation guys money. They're denying a lot of these, I can't think, these medical facilities or these medical homes, a lot of these places that they're paying, these recovery facilities or these nursing facilities, they're denying them money that they're supposed to be paying them. A lot of these folks, they use certain tactics to try to get the whole picture. There's no, say the insurance companies are not victims in this. That's what I'm saying.
I got it.
And I think that and I think that they're trying to beat up on lawyers, but lawyers are doing this because of the Supreme Court decision. If we pass a law to change the Supreme Court decision, and if we pass the law to make sure that we can have either guaranteed lower rates, or we pass the law to get rid of redlining, I think that we can do something. But you can't do anything without getting to redlining. You know what I mean? That's what's critical right here. Because even if you reduce benefits and you cap the amount of money that they had to pay out, even though we also are the first state in the country to have a Michigan Cash Dollar Claims Association, which collects billions of dollars. Now they say it's in debt, but we don't know because we don't have access to the books. From my understanding, it's like some of the interest payments like $700 million, and people want to say they want to use that to fix the roads. Personally, I think that if you run through all that money and you don't know what's in there, you could potentially bankrupt that fund, and it's only going to be a one-time payment for the roads anyway, which I think is going to be worse, because once that money runs out, it's going to be a patchwork job anyway. We got to have asset management to really make a proper investment so these roads can last 30 years. That's really what you should say. Do you want to build a road that's only going to last 2 years, or do you want to build a road that's going to last 30 years?
Yes.
I'd rather build a road that's going to last 30 years.
You want to take some more
Yeah,
calls?
take some more calls.
Okay. Caller, welcome to the Young Effect. You're on the air.
Happy Easter.
Happy
Easter.
Easter to you, too.
It's Brenda.
Oh, it's Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
Yes.
Hi, Brenda.
Oh, I missed y'all this morning.
Yeah.
I didn't make it to church. You all had a good time, I heard.
We had a great
Wonderful.
time.
We
Yeah.
did.
You all
Great
went to the International Gospel Center?
We did go to
we
International
did go
Gospel
there.
Center, and and he's got the tribute. Well, I hope he found it, but he's got the tribute. So yeah, we went down there. It was good. It was good.
You all were in Romulus yesterday. Went to the flea market, huh? Bought
Yes,
something?
we did. We did. We went out to the flea market in Romulus yesterday. We had a good
And
time with
Highland
those
Park.
people. I'm sorry?
And Highland Park.
And Highland Park.
Yeah,
That's
we
right.
was in the HP. We were in the HP. Do what we need to do. We was everywhere. We was all throughout the district. We were putting in work and we were doing the good things. So we've been doing really good things for a while. We're gonna continue to keep doing it. We are right where we need to be. So I'm very excited and I'm very happy of what's going on and everything.
And it was good
Well,
seeing
I have a question.
It was good seeing you yesterday too.
Was it? I had my face done today, though. I looked real cute this morning.
Happy Easter.
But I wanted to ask a question. Senator, you passed 11 laws, and I want you to speak about some of those that you passed, but how difficult it is to get laws passed in this Republican climate. Also, I hear that because we don't have any representation in the 13th district, we've missed over 100 votes, and there was nobody to advocate for any monies coming to the 13th district in the Trump budget.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it's going to be until we actually get someone to fill that seat. That's the way it's going to be. It's unfortunate. I mean, look, I think what happened with the 13th is penny wise and pound foolish. I just do. And I think that the fact that we don't have anyone up there for representation in terms of money, the fact we have anyone up there representation in terms of appropriations or in terms of policy or in terms of leadership or anyone up there just informing their constituents of what's happening, I think is disgraceful. It is disgraceful, and I think it's beyond the pale. And I think that, that's what the judge ruled. I knew that was going to be the case. I thought it was an uphill battle. I support the lawsuit. So I think it's wrong, and, I think it's just terrible what's happening.
And they said that the 13th district is the second poorest district in the United States.
In the country.
And with that being said, for the judge to rule against them is like they're ruling against the poorest of us. Because when Thaddeus McConnell left, Snyder immediately asked for a special election. So it would have cost a couple of $1 million to have the special election, but we may be losing up to billions in this district, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a war on the poor, and it really just shows you about lack of priorities from the state level. I mean, that's why voting is so important, and we need to make sure we put people in there that share our values and share our interests, and wants to represent the district, and right now we don't have that.
And that's another question. What is it that people should look at when they're selecting a candidate for election? We hear often about what people shouldn't look at, like they shouldn't look at name recognition or they shouldn't look at popularity. But what is it that people should look at?
Well, what do they believe in? I mean, you know what I'm saying? If you believe in someone that's going to fight for fair trade, not free trade, that's going to fight to make sure that we not only spend American taxpayer dollars in America, but that we also buy American products with those taxpayer dollars. If you support someone that wants to support not only more money for on-the-job training, but more money for pre-apprenticeship programs, if you want somebody that supports universal universal health care and not global warfare, if you want somebody that supports universal pre-K and supports investing in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math for our children, who supports tuition-free college, if you want someone that's going to support to make sure that we fight to regulate the banks, to make sure that we have a new Glass-Steagall Act so we separate corporate banks from, commercial banks from investment banks, if you think that the banks are too big and we need to break them up, If you want someone that's going to stand up there and fight to put people back to work, rebuilding our roads, rebuilding our infrastructure, rebuilding our waterways, that's going to get rid of the cap that they have right now on private activity bonds so we can have $6 to $7 billion more in investment, who believes in public-private partnerships for transportation infrastructure, as well as the Transportation Innovation Finance, Transportation Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act. Say that 3 times real fast. To make sure that we use the funds that we have, as well as the Tiger Grant money that come down here to fix our roads, to make sure that we have broadband that goes all across the country, not just the wealthiest parts of the area. The digital divide is real here. 38% of people here in the city of Detroit don't have access to internet. And it's even greater when you talk about low-income families. If you want somebody that's going to fight for small business, if you a small business person out there, and small business in the neighborhoods by expanding new market tax credits, these are things that we need in order to help people get started in the community. That's going to make sure that we fight against redlining in terms of people getting business loans. There were 17,000 loans that folks should have got in the Detroit regional area that they did not. And also make sure that we do an audit to audit of the federal government and also these financial institutions to investigate, one, how is this happening where we are denying people in Detroit? If you're a black person, you are 6 times more likely to get a loan for a mortgage, be denied a mortgage loan.
Wow.
6 times more likely, 2 times in the region.
Wow.
We need to make sure that we add gentrification in the process in terms of the Community Reinvestment Act, in order to make sure that people aren't being denied these loans, because that's what's happening, and it's real right now. And so these are the things that I think that we need to start doing. And if that cause is your cause, as well as paid sick leave and paid maternity leave, which every other industrialized country has except America.
But you passed the civil rights law.
I passed civil rights law for pregnancy. I didn't pass civil rights law for this, as well as expanding the earned income tax credit, as well as expanding the child care tax credit, and making sure that that is fully refundable for people who are poor, as well as making sure that we have, make sure we ban AR-15s to keep our people safe, keep our children safe when they go to school. Our teachers need raises and resources, not guns and bullets.
Well,
We don't need to be turning our schools into a shooting gallery. I know that's a lot.
Brenda.
But you know what I mean? If that cause is your cause, then you should be able to do it. As well as some of the stuff, though, also is just human stuff, too. Do they respect you when you call the office? Are they nice when they show up to you? Do they respect you as a person? Do they give you fair time? Are they gracious to you? Hell, are they happy when they see you? Do they say hello to you? Are they willing to shake your hand? Do you appreciate your time?
Back?
Do they call you back? You know, I know I'm getting a little bit too basic, but you know what I'm saying? But some of this, some of that stuff, I think it's a combination of all of it. But and that's why I'm running, because I believe I can do all those things.
That's a bad man.
Well, I know a little bit.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Brenda. When we don't have much time, Brenda, we got 2 more calls.
God, I didn't see that.
Can we say goodbye?
Yeah, can we give the number to the office?
Yes.
Yes, you can. It's 313-675-7960. 313-675-7960. 313-675-7960.
Was there something else?
7960. 313-675-7960.
Brenda, was there anything else you wanted to say before we go?
No, and Coleman will be on the People Show, the David Bullock Show this week.
On Tuesday. Is that Tuesday?
On Thursday. Yeah.
Thursday.
Okay,
All righty.
What time?
He'll be there at 9:30.
Okay. Thank you so much. We love
You're
you.
welcome. We love you too. Bye.
Goodbye now.
Go ahead, caller.
But don't forget, everybody, make sure you get out and vote and go straight to the Democrat. Vote Democrat. Watch who you put in as our governor. We need to get a Democrat in that governor spot.
Okay.
So, out and vote.
Thank you. Caller, go ahead. You're on the Young Effect.
Yes, hello, Senator Young. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm winning. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. And Miss Ann Ivory, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Happy Resurrection Day.
Same to you. Happy Resurrection Day. Senator, I will call back next week, Sunday, because I want to touch bases with you on the roads, and I want to tell you something that's going to really blow all y'all minds. So I'll call back next week, Sunday.
Right.
Okay?
Can't wait to hear my mind blown.
Yeah, and yes, it's going to blow your mind. And you all have a wonderful weekend and enjoy. And Miss Calvert, I'll be calling you.
Okay, thank
Love
you so
you.
much.
Thank you. Love you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Happy Easter.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
I just want to say we need universal background checks. We need to ban AR-15s, and we need to limit high-capacity magazines.
Okay.
You don't need a 100-round drum to go shoot
Hello?
geese.
Hello.
Hello?
Happy Easter.
Happy
Happy
Easter to you
Easter.
too.
Yes, my name is Geneva McIntosh, and I'm 80 years old, and I'm disabled to get out, but I will be calling people over the phone, tell them to vote for Senator Coleman Young, because he is the man for the job.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
and I love
that.
you all.
We love you too.
Love you too.
And have a blessed day.
You too. Appreciate
Happy
it.
Easter.
Happy Easter.
I'll be campaigning on my phone.
Okay.
Look forward to it.
Bye, Miss Geneva.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah. Also, by the way, I also regulated the medical marijuana industry, too.
Yes, you did.
So that's
Okay.
That's all right.
So you want to say goodbye?
I just want to say Happy Resurrection Sunday. Happy Easter. We love you. Nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care. I am your state senator, Coleman Alexander Young II, soon to be your next United States Congressman of the 13th District. We'll see you next time right here on The Young Effect.
Bad man.